I'm really excited today. We got a great show. I am here with Sam Libby, President and Managing Director, TCB Capital Advisors. Sam, how you doing?
Yeah, good. Awesome. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here today.
Awesome. So here at Scaling Through Structure, we always like to hear that story. How did you build this empire, if you will? So why don't we talk a little bit about TCB and how you got started?
Yeah. It's I think a lot of it is luck and happenstance, if you will. I spent the entirety of my career in investment banking, focused in healthcare. Had no plans to go out on my own. And then, having been in the industry for a long time, actually joined a boutique investment bank that a friend of mine, going back to our analyst days, had started, became a principal owner there, and was building out the healthcare practice and said, okay, well, this is kind of a unique thing. I didn't consider, even then, I didn't consider myself like, moving into the entrepreneurship side of things. Um, and then I got an opportunity to sell my stake in that company, and I decided I was going to take my first vacation, proper vacation, in like 10 years. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna work for a year, and went out to California, bought a motorcycle out there, and was going to start a much longer trip. About a month into my time off, clients reached out, prior clients, and again, I wasn't looking to do anything at that point. I needed to kind of rest and recover, and figure out actually what I wanted to do with my life, and if I wanted to keep going in banking. And I went to visit one of those clients, and we started talking about kind of the challenges in the industry, and they've been raising money, and they're an early stage cancer diagnostics company, and you kind of raise money, do R&D, raise money again, do R&D, and you hope you get far enough in between those milestones, that you can continue to raise money. But coming out of the pandemic, that was dead. If you were an early stage diagnostic company, you were having a lot of trouble raising at that point. And so we started talking about what they could actually do. And that single conversation really became what birthed TCB, because we started to sit down. We talked about, how do we do this in a way that is, functional and can help them hit, new strategic goals, but also, cater to their desire to serve the patient. They're a very patient focused company, which, is what we like to look for in companies that we work with. And so it ended up that led them to merging with another company to build out their pipeline further. They then actually acquired a German public company that had an approved test that, that company had hit some challenges in the market as well. And, kind of took them to the next level. And then, the interesting thing that I found is, once we had started doing things this way, looking at companies and their long-term strategy and figuring out how can we creatively help them solve their problems versus kind of, pick from the menu. You're going to do a cap raise, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Our clientele started to grow. And also in that, the team started to grow. So we moved from me and one analyst that I had worked with at Piper Sandler when I was there to 17 people over the time that we have existed, which is really since the end of 2022. And it's just that message gravitated with people. They said, okay, well, we can actually be creative, we can work with clients, and we can still focus on patient well-being. So it's been rewarding.
Yeah, I think one of the things that's really fascinating is, to your point, the mega menus can help a little bit, right? And in some businesses, they help the right way. You pull up to a car wash, the four levels, like, how washed your car is going to be. You make the decision, you're fine. But a lot of times, especially in B2B, the bigger the company, the bigger the problem, the more unique the solution is going to have to be. And I found that your customer delivery is going to be 10 times better if you are able to sit, listen, understand, and come up with that creative solution, like you said. I've also found that it becomes a lot harder to scale because you have to have a lot of the right types of people who can think like that, right? The critical thinking, connecting the dots, being able to build the custom strategy. And it's also just kind of hard to document and replicate because in nature, you're kind of saying it's not 100% repeatable. So how do you kind of keep a foundation of, okay, this is what we do, but also here's how we're flexible enough to really be there for our customers the way they need us to be there.
Yeah, this is a good question. I gotta say, and it's something that we constantly struggle with. What is it? It's try, fail, try again, fail better. That's kind of, yeah, exactly. I'm truly blessed. I work with some of the most dedicated and talented people that I've worked with in the entirety of my career. Um, and some of it, and again, that's why I relay it back to like some of it is luck, a lot of it is luck. Like I happened to be advising a client on a buy side transaction. They were looking to acquire behavioral health assets, but specifically rehab facilities. Um, Piper was running a sell side for a behavioral health asset. I knew the behavioral health asset. I knew a lot of the bankers running the deal, and obviously I know my client. We ended up working on that transaction together. I advised the client not to buy the asset, but the client ended up my point person at the client ended up coming over and working for us about a year and a half later. And one of the bankers at Piper actually came and joined us as well. We had known each other. We had worked in the bullpen together back in the day, but it was just kind of interesting that it's like, okay, now these two very talented individuals saw what we were doing, liked it, and wanted to join. Now, from the time they joined even to now, there's constantly growing pains. And one of the biggest points is exactly what you're discussing, which is, how do we kind of replicate each person's individual skill set and how they evaluate deals and what companies need. And the truth is there's no perfect way to do it that I've seen. Um, but with collaboration and then also with the opportunity for people to mess up and then correct and then get better, I think they all start to develop their own knack for it too, especially like if they want to, if they have the right attitude. And like one of those individuals is, he's focused in healthcare real estate. He spent his entire career there and is exceptionally talented in the space. Now he's challenging himself to learn more about, diagnostics and therapeutics because he wants to grow as well. He could just stay in healthcare real estate, but again, that type of person that says, okay, I'm really good at this one thing. I've been doing it a long time. I've developed my skill set, but I also want to learn more. I want to challenge myself. They're going to thrive. And then it's constantly a thing of, the team working together. Because I don't think you can have one person in a room and he goes, I'm going to have all the perfect strategic ideas. But, you get everyone together and have those conversations and challenge the thesis, and you're going to come away with something that's a lot better and start to, yeah, you can't replicate it because it's impossible to, but you can never replicate what the entire team can do. But I think you can refine it, make it more efficient, and then also be able to articulate to clients exactly what the process is. That does help as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think any like, business operating system will tell you to go back to that proven process so that you can at least show customer, okay, this is where you want to be. This is our process from getting you to A, B, and C. And I think having some of those processes, at least that you can put that flexibility into, are good guardrails, right? Um, I want to go back to um, the power of the people because you're as the time of this recording looks like we're about 2 years old as a company. We've now become grown to over 17 employees. Is that right?
Yep.
And what is it that you're looking for in the right person to be in your team? Because I imagine they got to have a huge amount of responsibility, and the impact and the growth is really tied to a lot of the individuals and how they perform on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah. And it depends which like vertical within our business they sit. So, the way that we're structured, we have our banking vertical, where all of the investment bankers and stuff, that's where we operate out of. Then we have our commercial operations and strategies group, as it's labeled, because I was told by the person who helped me build it out that I'm not allowed to say management consultant anymore. And the other side, which I believe is by far the most important side, is the scientific and clinical advisory board. So for us, we wanted to fix some of the things that in our experience, especially from the banker side, we've done a lot of deals, all of us, we came together and we said, what hasn't worked? And so one of the things is, bankers can talk about science. We don't understand science, with few exceptions. There's amazingly talented bankers that have PhDs and did research beforehand. I've worked for a number of them. I'm not one of them. And so we built out the clinical and scientific advisory board to basically say, hey, thumbs up, the tech is real. This is an amazing company. We want to work with them, or no. And if they say no, there's no going around them. It's a built-in control to make sure we're focused on the right companies that, again, are going to impact patients. And so within each vertical, it's different. If someone's coming into the banking vertical, ideally they have banking and transaction experience. But also our goal is not to bring in the people who are kind of cogs in the wheel. They're like, give me an assignment, tell me exactly what to do. I'll spend the hours, I'll get it done, and then move on to the next assignment. Like those people have a place in really big organizations because you need all of them. We want the people who are going to say, okay, hey, I'll have someone reach out and they'll go, hey, Sam, I have this idea for this deal we're working on, and it's been stuck because of these reasons. Why don't we go speak to this person about maybe we're doing a cap raise, and they'll say, let's go speak to this other group about a clinical partnership or research collaboration to kind of start moving them forward in the right direction. Because again, the goal isn't just to raise the money. The goal is to have these companies be successful in their primary mission. Whereas, if someone's coming on like the clinical and scientific advisory team, I mean, that's all about, science chops and experience and being a thought leader in your industry. And the people that we're looking for there are people that, one, believe in what we're trying to do, and two, understand that the gap between academia and patient lives is not as big as we believe it is.
Very cool. Yeah, I think there's just there's such a balance, right? When you're starting off and you're nimble and everyone has to think in a way where they've got to wear, multiple hats, and you've got to be able to figure out those creative solutions. And you get bigger and you build in some of that structure, right? You got different departments. These people can, make these decisions. And then, there's just somewhere in that trajectory where all of a sudden everybody wants that operational efficiency, right? And everything gets organized and structured. And then all the people who started who were quick and nimble and like, oh wait, we were running in this direction, but that's the wrong direction. Let's run this way. They're like, wait, what? Huh? This is project management system. What do you mean I have to put my tasks in here? Let me just dominate all day like I've done for the last 5 years. Do you foresee this balance of being nimble versus being operationally efficient being at least some sort of collision that you're headed towards? Are you there now? How do you kind of balance that being organized and being nimble?
Kind of interesting. I'd rather, and I will regret these words in the future, I'm sure, but I would
This would be easily the start of sentence.
I I would rather be disorganized and successfully accomplishing what our clients need, than really organized and our clients are like, "What's wrong with you guys?" And obviously the goal is the balance in between. You're accomplishing your client's goals, and at the same time you're highly organized. But I'll give an example. We're moving on to a CRM platform. And I think even saying that is a kind way to say it, because we've been moving on a CRM platform for over a year. And we've done some of the data input and all this other stuff, but we had a meeting together with the partners and basically said, hey, how important is this? And we're like, okay, it's pretty important. We want everything in the CRM. We want to be running this. And it's like, well, we have 7 deals that we're working on right now, and a number of them really need a lot of time to move forward. And also there's these other things happening and this and the other thing. And it's like, where does this fall on our priorities list? And it's like, well, it doesn't. And that's what we had to have an honest conversation. It said, in the medium and long-term goals, we want to get there. We want to have these other systems implemented, but we remember what our primary mission is. Now, at the same note, I did have a conversation with one of my directors where we were discussing certain month-end things. Like we have to roll decks over and we have live deals. So change some dates, make sure things are getting updated. And we're going to have a meeting this week just saying okay, let's make sure the standard operating procedures for this thing are there. So all someone has to do is go through the checklist, Now, the goal of having like, standard operating procedures for every single process is wonderful. But there's also going to be those people that don't exactly fully follow them and deliver at a really high level. And it shouldn't be the goal for everyone to like be the maverick and like create system issues. But like if there's one person who's like, I don't enter my things in the CRM, my analyst does it after the calls. Like, is that the end of the world? The focus is like, is that individual delivering for the clients, bringing in revenue? So I don't know. I sit more to the client facing side of things, and thankfully some of my partners sit more towards the operational side of things. So we kind of balance each other out a bit.
Wow, I just went in a lot of directions on that answer. So I was first like amazed and like light bulb went off when you were like, I'd rather be disorganized and come through for the customer than be really organized and not really be giving them what they need. And I was like, yes. And then you're like, and we've been moving on to a CRM for the last year. I'm like, dude, that's what I do. Oh, we help people around to CRMs. This is great. What's, well, I can talk you through any issue that you're having. Like, and then we just abandoned it. And I was like, no, what we abandon the CRM? That's the source of truth, man. Thing we can't abandon. So, but it brings up a lot of when a CRM is done right, and I talk about this a lot. We do a lot with HubSpot. We do a lot with Salesforce. What platform are you guys trying to get on? Salesforce. Salesforce is harder to get on than HubSpot. But I'll
They've been very. I will just say they've been very nice about it. They've answered all the questions. It's a time. I'm not trying to say anything bad about Salesforce. It's just a time-consuming process.
Both wonderful platforms. We're partners with each. There's a time and place for each.
Yeah.
Nimble teams trying to adopt something as robust as Salesforce can be a challenge, and it's something that we've heard a lot. And I think that ends up going to even like meeting you where your customers are at. If the Salesforce CEO as of this recording has been all over social media, just trashing Microsoft Copilot, bragging about his AI agents, how they're transforming his company, they're going to transform your company. And if you're at a place where you can, invest in innovation and, try out some, AI BDRs, and you can do that, like, wow, I mean, what a great place to do that on Salesforce, right? But if you're, struggling to get everyone rowing in the same direction and having a single source of truth as your business, then, the adoptability of a platform is probably going to have to be more prioritized. And so that's one of the things that we've noticed in the CRM world, and I won't get too far into the CRM world, is it's like, instead of everybody looking at it through the lens of the customer and what's best for the customer, they end up getting sucked into the partner ecosystems. And then it becomes like a team, right? You're either, with the Red Sox or the Yankees, and, you got to support the team at all costs, and you can't see the blinders that are like, hey, no, what's actually best for the customer? So it's actually really interesting that you're having these discussions about delivering for a customer. You're having this exact problem on the CRM side, and there is this whole other world where there's just these factors that make it really hard for these companies to deliver for some companies, and then when it's the right fit, it's like, oh my God, you solved all my problems.
The funny part is the initial discussions with them. It's all about this. This is the platform that's going to work best for you. Da 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 da. And everybody's platform is the one that's going to work best for you. And it's not about like. It would make sense to me if success in that space isn't signing up the client. Success in that is your client 2 years later still wants to be your client. And it seems like it's like new sales drives instead of retention. And maybe I could be wrong on that. Where if we were going towards a CRM that is maybe too robust, them going, well, we would love to have your business, but this might be a better fit for you now. And in 2 years, come talk to us. I can assure you that I go to that first platform, and 2 years later, I'd be like, okay, now we're at the right size. Let's go to the other one, because like their advice was good. The process was good.
Yes. And that, again, man, I'm loving this conversation because that's about what's doing best for the customer. But you're talking about publicly traded companies with salespeople with quotas that if they don't hit, they're going to get fired. And so they're thinking, okay, I want to do right by the customer for the most part, but I might not be here in 2 years if I don't get these guys. And I think that that's always an unfortunate situation to find yourself in, because I think that, and going back to where we're at about when we're nimble, like I've had those conversations with companies. They're not qualified. We're not at the point where where you'd be a good partner. And I said, you know what I want you to do? I want you to go grind it out. I want you to kick butt. I want you to come back in 3 years and go, you know what? We could afford you now, but we've also done this well enough on our own that we don't need to. Like I want that for you, because and then if there's a way that maybe we can collaborate and work together, that'd be great. But ultimately, like if we're in these businesses to help, right? We want to help people, and we can't talk out both sides of our mouth. Oh, we want this, what's best for you, and also sell you what's going to bring you back a little bit.
Yeah. One of my mentors always says, he goes, we're in the friend business. And, and it's funny because like I that particular mentor, I worked with him when I was at Piper. And then he's guided me as I was kind of on my own journey of building something. And then we're actually working with his current company. And it's kind of like, it's funny how everything comes together. And when he says we're in the friend business, he really means it. And this is an individual who's loved by everybody. And he says what he really feels and what he really thinks. He gives good advice and guidance, and he treats people fairly. And it's amazing. If you treat people fairly in business, people like it. Who would have guessed?
Yeah, it's funny. I like the friend business. I always go through the mom lens. Like, well, wait a minute. Let's imagine the client is the CEO of the client that we're working with is your mom, and you want what's best for mom. What's best for your mom? What would you tell your mom to do? And at that point, people can be like, oh, well, they get nervous. Like, no, what would you tell your mom to do? Like, tell me, like, even if it's not what I want to hear, like, say it. And then it's like, okay, now how do we drive business value for the actual client, knowing that's how you feel?
Well, now I got to go see my mom after this. Just say hi.
I am interested in your business though. Tell me a little bit more about your ideal customer. Cause I think anytime we're talking about healthcare and biotech, there's like, to what you were talking about before, there's so many stages, and God, I can only imagine the roller coaster of excitement that must be, some highs and lows. So tell me about who you guys help. Who are your friends?
Yeah. So, the first thing, which is kind of the corniest metric, so I always feel a little awkward when I say it, is we believe that the company's trying to do good. So, it sounds really simple, but part of it is what's their product, and so because we focus in healthcare, we're really targeting markets and segments that are insanely destructive to patients. So, we spend a lot of time in the cancer diagnostic and therapeutic space, in neurodegenerative disease, in areas of women's health, all areas that very, very have a very big impact on patient lives, on mortality rates, on quality of life as well. And so the question is, like, when we assess the company, is like, do we believe they're trying to do good? Meaning they think about the patient. They realize that when they talk about $1 of revenue, they're talking about a patient's life, especially in those spaces. And so that's kind of number one, because, and it's twofold. One, it feels good to work with companies that care about people. Two, the companies that are focused on patient lives are a lot less likely to participate in fraud, to falsify research data. And so like that culture being pervasive from the top down, has a big impact on how they're going to do business. So that's kind of number one. And then number two is, we have to have the scientists or clinician look at it and say, the IP is good, the tech is good. They don't have a crystal ball. They can't tell you, will this product go to market and succeed, but they can tell you like the underlying thesis is strong. And then going for there, it's is it a large market that they're catering to? Is there a underserved patient population? Like if you're going into the COVID test market right now, it's not a good market for you to go in. Even if, again, maybe the science is great and maybe you're trying to do good and help patients, but the market doesn't make sense. So we spend a lot of time in like colorectal cancer, prostate cancer, cognitive decline, specifically Alzheimer's, but there's lead-ins to other indications there. We're taking a company public that is a therapeutics company focused on women's health and oncology drugs. And their main focus is high efficacy, low side effect profile. So they're looking at the current treatment modalities on the market today. And, there's some great drugs out there. But at the same point, a lot of them are highly toxic. So they're working on a thesis of one, bringing, things with lower toxicity to the market, but also how can we partner and do combination therapy with, standards of care on the market today that are working great, but have such a high toxicity issue. But then you can do a combination therapy with something that has lower toxicity and kind of boost the performance or the efficacy of it. And, so that's a lot of what we spend our time with. And then it's also where they in their company life cycles. So, we focus on, go public transactions, M&A transactions, cap raises, kind of what companies will need to be able to grow and move forward with their mission. But the way that we look at it isn't like, okay, let's sign an engagement letter. Let's go to market and raise money. Okay, you raised $20 million. Let's all move on with our day. It was nice knowing you. Our focus is kind of that long-term relationship. I want to know where a company wants to be in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. And then, there might be multiple cap raises in there. There might be where they're going to acquire other companies there or do, strategic collaborations, research collaborations. And so we want to think about the entirety of that. Like there was a company I spoke to yesterday, and I've worked with the CEO before in a prior company. And, we had a whole conversation. They don't want to go raise money for like a year. But we started talking about, I've sold 12 businesses or over 12 businesses in their sector when I was at another bank. And so we had a conversation about how do we figure out business, strategic and clinical collaborations leading up to your cap raise, because your tech is interesting. There's buyers in the market, but there's also other people who are trying to be able to leverage that type of tech. Let's go do all of that work beforehand and then go to the market and raise. And, it was actually a really interesting conversation because that's what we try to do. We can't always. Sometimes people come to us and they say, I got 6 months of cash. I need to figure out what to do. Those are a lot harder transactions, I think, but when we're looking ahead and we're saying like, okay, how do we adjust the business so that we're in the best position to raise money or to sell or to something else? Like that's what we try to focus on. And that's what gets us really excited about a client.
Nice. I love it. All right, Sam, I want to get you out of here with this question. It's one of my favorite things to talk to entrepreneurs about. How do you structure your life? It sounds like there was a 10-year time period where you did not go on vacation, but you did buy a motorcycle. So maybe that's changed a little bit. How do you structure your week? Are you still like, I'll vacation some other time? Or are we doing more of a work-life balance these days?
So, work-life balance is something that I am working on. I still do when it comes to like vacations or things like that. Like I do long distance motorcycle rides. So like I just did New York to Texas. So I was living in New York for a bit, and I'm back in Texas where I live. And I did New York to Texas through the Smokies, Tail of the Dragon, across all of Tennessee. Now I will say I did it, in December. Well, November into December. And that was the worst time of the year to possibly do it. But, that became kind of my outlet because honestly, it's hard. When, like, I do believe I have an element of suffering breeds humility, but also like helps you push through mental blocks. And so like long haul, like, motorcycle rides do that for me, where it is a physical thing. I do not ride I ride a cafe racer, so I'm leaning over the whole time. It's physically taxing. And there's a certain point in the ride where I can start to hear myself clearly. And like the world pushes away and all of the ego pushes away. And then I can go, what am I doing right and what am I doing wrong? Where am I failing in my personal life or in my professional life? And then do better. It's going to be a while before I can do that again, as I have a son on the way. So again, my personal life will change. I mean, I do have a daughter, so this is my second child, but it's like, a newborn again. So most of my personal life, when I have the time, is spent with family, is spent with, my daughter, and obviously will be my son. but you carve out those small parts for yourself. And then the truth is you do what your clients need and you sacrifice and you try to be an example to your team. But you also try to protect, like I messaged one of my guys last night. We've been working on things nonstop. And he was like, I'm going out, I'm coming back, and then I'm going to log on. I'm like, dude, we had a great day. Like, I'm going to do a couple things and close out. Just enjoy your night. And like, take the win. Now that email happened at like 9 o'clock at night. So I don't know how useful it was, but like for me, I was like, I knew he was logging back in. So, not sure if that fully answers the question, but I think it's a spectrum and I keep trying to work at it.
No, it does. I mean, I think that a lot of times people definitely can carve out time for the business, find time, carve out for family. Those are easy segments. I think that time to carve out for you is really important, right? Whether it's through exercise. And I like what you said about the long distance motorcycling, because I love any of those places where I find myself, the phone is away. No one can bother me. I have to be able to say, I swim. I like to swim. That's what works for me. But it's like, now I'm deep in my thoughts. I'm deep in the mood. I'm like really trying to, and that's actually like anytime I have to write something, whether it's like, something important in business or my parents' 50th wedding anniversary speech, like that's like my time to zone in and create. So,
So that exact feeling where like all of the things that you believe are you slip away, and then you're sitting there just with the real you, and you're like, wow, I haven't seen you in a bit,
it's the best. Yeah. Not on for anybody. It's just you being super authentic and real in your mind, and no distractions. Wonderful, wonderful. Awesome. Sam, this was great, man. I really enjoyed this. And I think the audience is going to really, really enjoy this one too. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Austin. It was great to be on.
That's it for today. If you like what you see, give us a thumbs up and make sure you hit subscribe so you can see our latest videos as soon as they drop. We really appreciate you watching. See you next time.